I like to take the risk. I like to have that extra food on the shelf. And hello everybody and welcome back. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. If you're new here, welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you. To all the new subscribers, thanks for the subs. I got lots of good content hopefully coming out this year. I'm so excited about this growing season. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to talk about the plant hardiness zone. We're in zone 6B for new subscribers. And do these plant hardiness zones really matter? Do they matter? We are right in front of the garage today. The temperature outside is 15 degrees, cloudy, and we are still in zone 6B, in case I missed that somewhere. The reason we're going to be doing this video on the plant hardiness zones is because we've had some questions about it, and we're going to talk about it the way that we see it and what we do about it and what we used our plant hardiness zone for. Whether you're a pro or not, I'd like to just talk about the baseline of information we have on our plant hardiness zone and what we use it for. Now, the website we use is the USDA website. I believe you just type in USDA plant hardiness zone and the maps it'll pop up, and you click on the maps, and then you pretty much go from there and find your zone. Now, there's been lots of confusion. Of course, they also have two maps on there. They have the older map, and then they have the new one where they broke it down into two zones for every, I believe, number. It's A and B, 6A, 6B, stuff like that, to get a more accurate measurement for people on their zone and the temperature. I'll put a link in the description below to the website that I use to find out my zone, and that will pop up the USDA link. We just type in our zip code and it tells us our zone, which is zone 6B, and the temperature range in there that they give you, which is the minimum temperature, is -5 to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the range that we have for the minimum low for our zone. It could be higher than that, and it's kind of a average over about 50 to 100 years of past information for you to use and have readily available. Now, what do we use our plant hardiness zone for? We use the plant hardiness zone for making seed schedules, in which my last video, I'll pop up a card somewhere over here about that, and we use it to create our seed schedule with it, and also that helps in maximizing your growing season. So it tells me my last spring frost and my first fall frost. So that's my growing season in between these two right here. So the whole growing season maximum that I have is roughly 191 days. It could be smaller, and that's just kind of how it is. It's an estimation for you to kind of plan your season, and you can use that to maximize your growing season through scheduling and planning and succession seeding and stuff like that. So I have roughly 191 days to grow all of my veggies for this year and get them canned or preserved, whatever you need to do. I also use it to know the estimated dates when to plant. If I'm a beginner gardener, this is pretty helpful. So let's say I'm a beginner gardener and I do not know even where to start. So where I would start would be to know my plant hardiness zone. So you go on the website, enter your information, and it'll tell you. So then from there, let's say you're going to seed start tomatoes, or you don't have to seed start tomatoes. This is just an example. You can take your frost date, which mine is April 10th, I believe, and you minus 6 to 8 weeks from there to seed start something. Now, you don't have to do that. That's how you maximize your growing season, because that's the very earliest I could do that to be able to get them to size to put in the ground. That would be enough time for me to grow an adequate transplant and then be able to put it in the ground. So if you didn't want to maximize your growing season, or it's not that big of an issue, you just want to grow some tomato plants, you could just go buy some plants and plant them around Mother's Day like everybody else in my zone, and then that's no fuss, no muss. You don't have to deal with any of this extra information. The hardiness zones, they only measure the average annual minimum temperatures for your zone. So these are just estimation of temperatures and estimation of dates for your frost dates. It also doesn't tell you the average heat waves in your area, like, heat whenever it comes in July over here. It doesn't tell you any of this stuff, which also They don't tell you the humidity or the average rainfall or drought days. These are all factors that affect your ground temperatures and night temperatures and stuff like that, which have to do with putting things in the ground, because it's like in July, I can't put transplants in the ground without overhead watering them all the time because it just gets way too hot for them. It's like for tomatoes. For experienced gardeners, they probably know more about this stuff, so it doesn't quite apply to them per se. But for a new gardener, you're not going to know information probably like the tomatoes need nighttime temperatures and ground temperatures to be a certain spot for you to be able to put them in the ground successfully, okay? So before, I have put mine in the ground too early, and the ground temperature was below what it should be to get tomato plants in the ground, and that was putting my plants in like a dormant state. So they got really cold and turned purple, and they was just really lagging. And when they finally heated up, they was like 2 weeks behind growth because it took that long for them to heat back up and to get to temperature for them to start thriving. So there's two key factors to put tomato plants in the ground. The nighttime temperature needs to be 45 to 50 degrees at night, and the ground temperature should be 50 to 60 degrees for your ground temperature. Now that is affected for people who live in slumps, like in the land or like a bottom of a hill, or the top of the hill. They're going to get more wind and more temperature swings through there, and you're just going to be in the low spot, and just like we're in a low spot, so it takes a little bit longer for our ground temperatures to be up in night temperatures. That's something else that you have to factor in. So my zone is 6b, okay? My temperatures for the minimum, the lowest temperatures for my zone are roughly -5 to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So, and I'll pop up a little image of the map here. If you're getting confused on what I'm talking about, you'll kind of be able to see it. My last spring frost is April 10th. So I should be able to plant them anytime after April 10th if I was just going off my last spring frost, okay? That's technically correct, but it also can't quite be that cut and dry. People have questions about it. Well, I'm in these different zones and it's telling me I have two zones, or you can't figure out your zone. An easy way to get past that, let's say every crop has its up and down. Like tomatoes, they have their nighttime temperatures and their ground temperature requirements that need to be met in order to successfully transplant them without them getting dormant or too cold and getting frostbite or stuff like that. So I should be able to plant them anytime when the ground and night temperatures are met, okay? So the nighttime temperature is 45 degrees to 50 degrees Fahrenheit during the nighttime temperatures, and the ground temperature has to be 50 to 60 degrees, okay? So if those two things are met and it's before April 10th, let's say it's a week before that, I'll wait that whole week till April 10th, okay? And let's say that whole week is good. Nighttime temperatures and ground temperatures are good, okay? So what I'm going to do, me personally, and look forward, they have the 10-day forecast. I would look forward, see what that looks like. And if all the weather is just, it keeps warming up, you could probably put them in the ground. You don't have to religiously follow, your zone or your plant hardiness zone, so to speak. It's just kind of a place to begin. In my opinion, it's kind of a place where if I didn't know what I was doing or forgot my zone and forgot kind of when to seed start things, I would start there again. It's just kind of a thing where you have to pay attention to your weather and the ground temperatures in your zone. The hardiness zones and temperatures, the minimum temperatures, are just estimated temperatures and dates. You don't have to religiously follow them, but it's a good place to start and branch off of. Okay, another example would be like onions. If you Google it, it says onions can be planted when the ground is able to be worked. Okay, so that's very vague, but I've seen that my onions personally have survived 28 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 hours, which is below freezing, and without covering them, that's pretty good, okay? So, but in the research that we've heard and seen, onions can survive temps as low as 20 degrees Fahrenheit. But what really matters is how long that freeze lasts, or below freezing, how long it takes for that to warm back up. The longer the freeze, the more damage happens, and usually what happens is the moisture in the roots. Let's say your plants have sucked the moisture around it dry, and it's like right now. Last night it got 20 degrees, I believe, as a low, and this morning it turned into 15 degrees. Let's say my raised bed, let's say I didn't water it last night, okay? So now the only thing that has moisture in it is the plant roots, and the ground is not as moist as it was before. Water acts as an insulator around the roots, okay? And if there's no water around the roots in the dirt to help insulate that ground, it's going to freeze that water and then plants and roots and leaves and stuff like that. That's why I believe collards and Brussels sprouts do so good in these temperatures, because their leaf moisture content's pretty low, and they just have a better chance because that horse is kind of bred for that rodeo, okay? So, but anyway, as I'm saying, if I water the raised bed really heavily the night before a frost, it'll insulate around them plant roots, and it kind of helps you be able to grow things normally that you're not able to grow, like those onions. I've had mine survive 28 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's because I watered them really heavy the night before that frost, and it insulated the ground around them. If those roots freeze, the plant's probably not going to make it. You know, that's kind of a big issue for them. So all in all, if you're a beginner gardener and you need reminded where to start, let's say it's spring, you can't quite remember when you seed started something, if you didn't keep record of it, I would suggest going back and looking at your plant hardiness zone. Mine's April 10th, okay? So like I said, it's a good place to start. But for experienced gardeners, not so much, because they know the planting and growing info, or they kept record of it the year before, and that can make the difference in maximizing your growing season. To some people, maximizing your growing season doesn't matter. But for people like me, where I preserve my food and like to put all that food up on the shelf, and that's a very important thing to me, and this is a huge deal for me to maximize my growing season, because I can push them plants out and put as much up as I can. Putting food up right now is more important than ever. Some people care about it, some people don't. But like I said, like knowing that information about tomato plants, it could be warmer 2 weeks before my April 10th last spring frost, okay? It could be 2 weeks before that, and the weather has been up in the 50 degrees, and the night temperatures have been 50 degrees. Let's say it's the ground temperatures, even 55 degrees or 60 degrees, whatever it is. I could plant my tomato plants 2 weeks before my estimated last spring frost. So that's kind of where the line lies there. You got to watch your weather and keep record of things, and you can plant things earlier if your temperatures are right, and sometimes people just don't want to take that risk and wait. I like to take the risk. I like to have that extra food on the shelf, and just eating my food about 3 or 4 weeks earlier than most people around my zone is awesome. I love having fresh food and vegetables to eat every night for dinner, or every other night at least. You know, to each his own. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I want you to let me know in the comments below what your zone is. I'd like to see where everybody's from, so to speak, just to kind of get an idea of what viewers are out there, subscribed or not. I mean, if you're not subscribed already, I hope you subscribe and ring that bell to get notified every time I come out with a new video. And I hope you have a great gardening year. This is the year. This is the year, guys. I'm so excited about it. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.